1, 2, 3. Better? Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Paul Senders, Clay County Commissioner. We are very pleased that you made this event tonight a top priority to be with us. It is my honor to introduce our guest presenter reader tonight, but before I do that, I want to say a couple of things. This past week and weekend has been a great time of celebrating and recognizing the birth of our great country. Last Saturday, here at the Courthouse, we had a 250-year program followed by a parade. There have been special events throughout the Wabash Valley, the state of Indiana, and the United States. I'm sure you saw the many celebrations on TV from the many cities celebrating our 250 years, and the many displays of fireworks here in the Wabash Valley and across America. And I know Washington, D.C. wanted to have the biggest and best fireworks they ever had, and they may have, because I am told that they shot 840,000 rifles or shells for fireworks. That is a huge, huge number. What a great time. What a great time this is to remember what happened 250 years ago in that very warm Independence Hall in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And we want to continue with that time of 250 years ago this evening on the grounds, the front part of the courthouse, Clay County Courthouse. Thank you for joining with us for this community reading of the Declaration of Independence. At this very moment, in communities across America, people are gathering to read this Founding Fathers document aloud and to reflect on the ideas that helped shape our great nation. 250 years ago today, colonists gathered in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania for the very first public reading of the Declaration of Independence. The Declaration had been officially adopted, as you know, 4 days prior on July the 4th, asserting the colony's rights to self-government. Since its adoption, this document has been a steady symbol of our country's commitment of freedom. We gather this evening in the same spirit of civic engagement as they did 250 years ago. Ladies and gentlemen, joining us tonight as a community member of Clay County and a graduate of Van Buren High School is Kevin Schultz, the Vice President of the Indiana Society Sons of the American Revolution. Kevin, it is great that you are here tonight to share with us the reading of the Declaration of Independence. Kevin?
Thank you, Commissioner. And I want to thank the commissioners and their staff for the help. Marty's back there, Paul here. Excellent to support this activity. I'm most grateful for all their assistance in this. Before I get started, 250 years ago, a committee of 5 people, Thomas Jefferson, Samuel Adams, Robert Livingston, Roger Sherman, and Benjamin Franklin, were assigned to write the Declaration of Independence. It passed by unanimous consent in the 13 colonies, with one abstention, and that guy walked out of the room because he didn't want to be part of it. But anyway, his vote didn't count anyway. I think he was at the Pennsylvania delegation. The time 13 colonies, if I can remember them right: New Hampshire, New York, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Delaware, Rhode Island, Pennsylvania, Maryland, North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, and Georgia. I think that makes 13. All approved this, and basically as a result of the tyranny that was inflicted upon them by the British Crown. When you sit here tonight, I want you to think about something. I saw an interesting thing on the way over here. Somebody had a sign above their garage. Freedom isn't free. Never forget. And I'm like, yeah. Let me just give you an example of my own family. There's 4 branches of my family: Schultz, Stow, Neiswinger, and Dickerson. Walter Dickerson, Revolutionary War, buried in Holman Links Golf Course before it was a golf course. New Jersey militia, injured in his foot. 3 of his grandsons were killed in the Civil War. 2 other grandsons survived. My great-grandfather served in the World War I. My great-grandpa Ernest Neiswinger was an artilleryman in Pershing's army. In World War II, we lost a Dickerson in the Battle of the Bulge, and also lost a Neiswinger shortly thereafter in the March to the Rhine. They're buried in Belgium, not less than 50 yards apart from each other. We had the opportunity to go see that a couple of years ago. In Korea, another Neiswinger, a brother of the one that was killed in World War II, was killed in Korea. In Vietnam, we lost a gentleman by the name of Chester McClellan. His name is over here on the wall here in memorial. And currently, right now, well, I had a nephew, my Uncle John there, my father. They all served in the military. My late Uncle Richard, he served in the military. And my cousin Neil Stow served in the military in the war against terror. And now he has a daughter serving up front in the Middle East right now as hostilities continue. Freedom isn't free. Our family has suffered. Our family has sacrificed and always stood the test of call when America needed it. And I want you to remember that, you know, study your ancestry, because I'll guarantee you that people in your family did the same exact thing. So, without further ado, in the unanimous declaration of the 13th United States of America, when we say something good, we want you to say what? Huzzah! That's how they said hooray back then. And when you hear something that King George did nefariously to the colonies, I want to hear a big boo. We want this exactly kind of the way it was done outside of Independence Hall and countless other locations. You know, back then they didn't have an internet or a Pony Express or a telegram or a telephone or TV, any of that kind of stuff to relay the message. The message was relayed by a team of horsemen going one after another to get to the place. So to get to New Hampshire, the most furthest outpost, took them 4 days from Philadelphia by horse. Remember that. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and nature's God entitle them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people, to alter or abolish it, and institute a new government, laying its foundations on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and their happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. And accordingly, all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer, while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. The guys back then had a whole big broadsheet. Fortunately, I don't. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under the absolute despot, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former system of government. The history of the present king of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let the facts be submitted to a candid world. He has refused his assent to laws, the most wholesome and necessary for the public good. He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance, unless suspended in their operation till his assent should be obtained, and when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend to them. He has refused to pass other laws for accommodation of large districts of people, unless those people will relinquish the right of representation in the legislature, a right inestimable to them and formidable to tyrants only. He has called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository of their public records, for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures. He has dissolved representing houses repeatedly for opposing with manly firmness his invasions on the rights of people. He has refused for a long time after such disillusions to cause others to be elected, whereby the legislative powers, incapable of annihilation, have returned to the people at large for their exercise, the state remaining in meantime exposed to all the dangers of invasion from without and convulsions within. He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states for that purpose, obstructing the laws for naturalization of foreigners, like my wife, refusing to pass others to encourage their migrations hither, and raising the conditions of new appropriation of lands. He has obstructed the administration of justice by refusing his assent to laws for establishing judiciary powers. He has made judges dependent on his will alone for the tenure of their offices and the amount and payment of their salaries. He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance. He has kept among us in times of peace standing armies without the consent of our legislature. He has affected to render the military independent of and superior to the civilian power. And he has combined with others to subjugate us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to their acts of pretended legislation, among those, for quartering large bodies of armed troops among us, for protecting them by a mock trial from the punishment from these murders which they should commit on the inhabitants of these states, a la the Boston Massacre, for cutting our trade with all parts of the world, for imposing taxes on us without our consent, for depriving us in many cases the benefits of a trial by jury, for transporting us beyond seas to be tried for pretended offenses, for abolishing the pre-system of English laws in a neighboring province, establishing herein an arbitrary government, and enlarging its boundaries as to render it at once an example and fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rule into these colonies. For taking away our charters, establishing our most valuable laws, and altering fundamentally the forms of our government, for suspending our legislatures and declaring themselves invested with the power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever. He has abdicated government here by declaring us out of his protection and waging war against us. He has plundered our seas, ravaged our coasts, burned our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people. He is at this time transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete the works of death, desolation, and tyranny, already begun with circumstances of cruelty and perfidy, scarcely paralyzed in the most barbarous ages, and totally unworthy of the head of a civilized nation. He has constrained our fellow citizens taken captive on the high seas to bear arms against their country, to become executioner of their friends and brethren, or to fall themselves by their hands. He's excited domestic insurrections among us and has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers the merciless Indian savages whose known rule of warfare is an undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions. In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people. Nor have we been wanting in attentions to our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time of attempts by their legislator to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We reminded them of the circumstances of our immigration and our settlement here. We've appealed to their native justice and magnanimity. That's a real nice word. And we have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations, which would inevitably interrupt our connections and correspondence. They too have been deaf to the voice of justice and consanguinity. We must, therefore, acquiesce in the necessity which denounces our separation and hold them as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war, peace in peace, friends. We therefore, the representative of the United States of America in General Congress assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do in the name and authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are and have right to be free and independent states. They're absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that as free and independent states, we have the power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and do all the other things which independent states might have right do. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance and to the protection of the divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. Anybody have any